Welcome back to the Stan Simpson Show. Catch us, folks, again 24/7 at ctnow.com/Stan. There's a new sheriff in town on the football sideline of UConn. His name is Paul Pasqualoni. He is Desmond Connor, Harper Current football beat writer. Spring practice is starting, right? All this March Madness stuff, and quietly, not so quietly, UConn football starting again. What's going on with Paul Pasqualoni's new team?
Well, he finally got his chance to get his hands on them this week for the start of spring practice. And, the guys were really excited to get out there and, show them what they had. One of the things that I think, we in the media were looking for was to see, how the kids bounced, around, especially with, Randy Edsall having left. How are they going to respond to this guy and, those kinds of things. But
How are they doing? How are they doing?
Exceptionally well, yes. I mean, their first practice was really noticeable. I mean, I think, the people in the media who did show up, we actually gathered and said, boy, there's something different about, the feel of this practice and the way these guys are. Because really, spring practice is a grind, you know what I mean? It's a month that, it's a month of practice where at the end of it, it's just over. Basically in the summer, you're going to pick all of that stuff up again. But, those guys really, practice well, and they were excited to perform for their new coach.
Trying to impress the new guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does he bring to the table? 61 years old, former Syracuse coach, just came from the Dallas Cowboys with his defensive coordinator over there, Western Connecticut. What's he bringing to the table? How's he different than Randy Edsall?
Two things. One, the experience. Okay, I mean, obviously he's 20 years older, pretty much about 10 years older than Randy, so obviously he has more experience. He has more in-depth NFL experience. But the one thing that I think is different between Paul and Randy that I think will make a difference here is that, Paul is a hometown guy. You're going to have pride in the hometown university. You know what I mean? And he certainly has that. He's humbled by the job. You can see that. It's just in him that, this is UConn. I want to be the guy, state guy who built it to the next level. That's. I think he really wants to be the guy to do that, and I think he can.
Are you thinking Edsall didn't have that love for the hometown?
Well, I mean, he wasn't a hometown guy. It's different if I think it's just different if you're a state guy. I mean, it's just there. You know what I mean? It's always, Connecticut, UConn has always been like the big school in the state. Yale, but you, in terms of, that level of football, I mean, that's been the program, in recent years that, you want to kind of raise to the next level. And I think he's going to do it. I really do.
Dude, big shoes to fill. I mean, coming off a season here where it's a historic season, right? Fiesta Bowl. Comes now, there's no quarterback, there's no running back. I mean, questions there, questions the wide receiver. What happens? A lot of holes to fill, Connor. Right?
Yeah, but the good thing is at least at the quarterback position, some will call it the most important position on the field. But at the quarterback position, they do have guys there that can get the job done.
Who do you like?
I mean, I like the dual threat guys. I like the guys who can pitch it and the guys who can run too.
Mike Box, heard something about him.
But Mike is one of those. He can do it all. I mean, he's the guy in camp right now with the most experience. A redshirt sophomore from Georgia. He's very composed, very confident in what he can do. He just doesn't have the experience, as do none of the other guys. But I tell you what, these guys are talented players. They're just going to be young, and you're just going to have to deal with that, throughout the season, no matter who the quarterback's going to be.
Big surprise, running back Robbie Fry transfers. Here's a kid with a lot of speed. People thought a good future guy for the program transfers. What's the inside story there?
Well, I think there's, I think he wanted to be closer to home. I think, there was a school there where it had a major that he could really focus on.
Where did he go?
Kutztown State.
Kutztown, okay. Division 2, right?
Yeah.
That's stunning. It's a pretty good player.
Yeah, but you know what? Pros come out of Kutztown, though. So I mean, if he continues to do what he's done, especially on special teams, he could do it. And I think, he got serious too about a girlfriend there too. So I think the combination of all of those things, and I think that Robbie didn't think that he had an NFL future coming out of UConn. But if you look at this kid on special teams, whether it's punt return, punt coverage, kickoff return, kick coverage. I mean, he was always around the ball. Yeah. I mean, those guys find a place in the NFL.
But if that's bigger platform at UConn than Kutztown State, though, right, Des?
Yeah, but nowadays they find you anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, you can find just as many D2 players in the NFL. I tell you, I challenge you to go look at some of these NFL rosters and see where a lot of these guys have come from.
Smaller schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about the wide receiver situation? Last year, Jasper Howard, or 2 years ago, dies the safety. His buddy receiver, Kashif Moore, is going to wear his uniform number 6 in honor of Jasper Howard. Talk about that.
Well, I mean, certainly, Kashif is a guy who was very close to Jazz. You know that. He had a lot of pride wearing that jersey for the Fiesta Bowl. I mean, that was a surprise to everybody to see him come out there with it. But I think he feels like, yes, this is my senior year. I want to take the entire year to honor, my close friend and my teammate. And by asking to wear that jersey, I think that's what he plans on doing.
Could be a lot of pressure, too, right? Wearing that jersey, you bring a lot of attention to yourself. So you got to kind of make sure you're going to step up.
But I think he thought about all of that, too, before he asked for a jersey. I don't think that's going to be a problem for him.
Clothing thought Randy Edsall. Now he's gone right off to Maryland. Is there one constant grumble you hear in the locker room from players about with him gone? Now, what's the good you hear about Randy Edsall, and what's sort of the negative?
Well, the good is that for the most part he's reached out to the players. He didn't get a chance to do that, before accepting the job, and I think that bothered him. It certainly bothered the players and people around the program that he didn't at least tell them, before he accepted the job that he was at least, in position to get the job. I think for the most part, I think everybody's past it. I think Pasqualoni coming in, everybody feeling good about Paul Pasqualoni, has kind of pushed what happened with the Edsall thing on the back burner.
He brings credentials, no question about it. Now, I'll tell you a quick story. About probably 15 years ago in Danbury, a show called the Paul Pasqualoni Show. He was a coach at UConn. There was a cameraman behind the scenes who had a very shaky camera. I was the cameraman for the Paul Pasqualoni Show at Western. And when I saw him at Western, I said, this guy doesn't belong at Western. You could tell there he's a big-time football coach. Western was basically a club football team. They turned into a regional power. And back then, you realize, man, this guy's not going to be here long. And then he went from there, I think, to Syracuse. But you could tell even at that time there, that Paul Pasqualoni was a big baby. I think
a lot of people are real excited to see what he can do. Yeah. I think people saw the age 61 at first and were a little concerned. But, if you see the way he runs around practice, he doesn't run around like a 61-year-old or anything. I'll tell you that right now. So that's spring chicken in the spring.
Always a turtle. So the hopes are high for Huskies. He's Desmond Connor. Catch his blog at current.com. I'm Stan Simpson. Coming up, we'll talk a little NCAA women's basketball. We have teacher versus pupil, Gino versus Jen, WTIC Scott Gray joins us for a chat. Don't go away.